Hello and welcome everyone, a new episode of Money Means Business. Today the launch share of this episode is going to be totally dedicated to one of the most successful organized forums here in Egypt. When it comes to urban communities, when it comes to people, we do have a lot to speak about, and the state, here Egypt, is exerting the utmost efforts to make sure that it's one of the top priorities to raise the standard of living for the Egyptians and to make sure that they are enjoying good urban communities to live in, simply because we deserve. But before going into this and before introducing my dear guest live here in the studio, let's have a quick look at two important meetings which took place today, presided over by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and attended by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa al-Madbouli, and also tackling some economic events. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met on Saturday with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa al-Madbouli, Minister of Civil Aviation Samih al-Hifni, where the head of the state was briefed on the development status of the civil aviation system and its all components. Now we have on screen the other meeting, which was attended by Kamel al-Wazir, Deputy Prime Minister of Industrial Development and Minister of Industry and Transport, and a number of other ministers, as the President was briefed during the meeting on the latest developments in the executive work on several development sites and files as part of the state's ongoing efforts in cooperation with the private sector to increase productivity, economic growth and improve income levels. The meeting addressed development efforts in the new Valley Governorate, or El Wadi al-Jadid province, particularly the remote areas and the services presented to the citizens there, with presidential instructions and directives to make sure that there is such improvement in the services introduced to Egyptians in those remote areas, which unfortunately were neglected for decades, but now the case is totally different. As we are going to turn back to the other meeting, which included the aviation services, and to make sure that also it's witnessing improvement, sustainable, comprehensive development because of the influx of tourists we are receiving and we are going to continue receiving in the coming period, particularly as we already entered our peak when the Europeans and all those who are suffering in their countries very cold weather, they are going to enjoy our sunny weather here in Egypt, and before anything else they are going to be received with our warm reception, warm smile, to make sure that they are going to return back home with unforgettable moments. Well, we do have a lot to speak about, so right after the short break we are going to return back. Stay tuned.
With the participation of delegates from more than 182 countries, the 12th session of the World Urban Forum, organized by the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat, kicked off in Cairo. This session is particularly important because it is held after the adoption of the Charter for the Future in September. Anna Claudia Rosbach, Executive Director of the program, said that the World Urban Forum is attracting more sectors and new stakeholders who are interested in the future of our planet and the crucial role that cities play in shaping it. Anna Claudia said that the Charter for the Future adopted during the Future Summit at the United Nations headquarters recognizes the importance of the housing and new cities agenda and the importance of local and regional governments. The Charter for the Future addresses the challenges and opportunities related to digitalization and technology, which are closely linked to the efforts made in smart cities. The 12th World Urban Forum is being held under the theme "Everything Starts Locally," local actions for sustainable cities and communities, to emphasize that solutions must start where people live, work and build their lives. In a message to the forum, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that real progress begins at the local level, in communities and people's lives, adding that local and regional authorities are an essential part of the answer to many issues and at all levels, including at the United Nations. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said on the sidelines of the opening of the forum that this session comes at a critical time when the world is facing many crises and wars, which have their repercussions and devastating effects on cities, residential areas, and all aspects of life. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas spoke at the opening, saying that the destruction in Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem imposes many challenges that hinder sustainable urban development efforts in 60% of the West Bank and all areas of East Jerusalem.
Welcome back. As we promised that our lion's share of this episode is going to be totally dedicated to the World Urban Forum, or the WUF 12, which was hosted by Egypt, and it took place for 4 or 5 days, something. We are going, I mean, during our episode to speak about the statistics. The stats we have are really amazing. But before going into the details and before moving into more numbers, 24,000 attendees and maybe more than that coming from, I think, 182 countries. Oh, this is really big. To shed more light on the event and to speak more about all what took place during those days here in Egypt, we are very much delighted and honored to have with us live here in the studio Engineer Ahmed Yassin, EU for Water Program Ambassador, and he was one of those who attended the forum, and of those, let me say, behind the camera to make it a story of success. Thank you very much for being with us, Engineer Ahmed.
Thank you very much for having me.
And let's start with simplifying the whole issue for our viewers, because many people are going to say or to wonder why this forum is really that important and how it's considered the second important forum after the COP27, and to choose Egypt for the edition number 12 for this forum, of course, it means a lot. So let's elaborate on that first before going into more details.
Lovely. So first of all, I would like to echo your words about when you said that it's a very successful event, because it's really a perfect completion to the COP27. And this forum, in simple terms, we're speaking about how we can live a good life, sustainable life, without affecting our environment and connecting with our environment in a positive way, and also taking care of our planet, and without also having some disastrous effects from the climate impacts that are happening because of climate change. So urbanism is a word, or as a definition, is how to make or to build a city in a sustainable way, and to be intersecting with the climate action SDG number 11 and number 12 and other SDGs. So that gives a sense so people understand how they can live in a very good lifestyle. And to be hosted in Egypt, it's very important.
And sir, you know, as I said in my intro, when it comes to economy, to economics, we need numbers.
Yes.
And we are going, of course, to go into what took place during the events of the forum, but to know that the lion's share of the participants were coming from Africa, 69% from the attendees representing Africa, our black continent, and followed by Asia, only 13.9%, and then the rest of the whole world. What does it mean? Or let me know your vision regarding the numbers, or what they indicate.
Egypt is mapping a very good map related to Africa and giving it's the North Gate, to be honest. And we need more talks and intersection with the African continent, and giving a space to the Africans. The Africans have seized the opportunity in the World Urban Forum to have their voices heard about what's going on. Also, they found out the Egyptian I'm proud to say that Egyptian World Urban Forum is a very good platform to the Africans to speak about climate issues related to the problems that they're having in terms of urbanism. Also, Egypt set an example, perfect example, in urbanism in the last couple of years, and even how it's intersecting sustainable efforts, but at the same time also hosting COP27, so it has the knowledge and experience
This
allowed
is
to
it,
do
because
so.
COP27 in specific, I think it was named, or it was one of the nicknames, if you permit me to say so, about COP27, it was Africa's COP.
It's also
So,
very
to
African
have,
COP.
to have those two
45,000.
big events, and having the African continent on top of the priorities, let me put it this way, because when it comes to urban communities, I think the most the continent which is really in need to have
Vulnerable
good
to problems, yes.
urban communities, and much vulnerable to this and to that, because when it comes to climate change, unfortunately, our black continent is paying such a dear price for something which we did not have a share in.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's dive into the forum and to have, I mean, I'm going to give you some statements, and would you please elaborate, and if you do have examples. The forum facilitated dynamic discussions, partnerships, actionable commitment, and underline this word actionable because I really love it, aimed at addressing some of the most pressing issues cities face today, from climate change and rapid urbanization to affordable housing and urban equity.
Very
Here, there are many words which I think many of our viewers listen for the very first time. Urban equity. The balance between urban equity and the rapid urbanization. Tell me.
So the most important thing about the World Urban Forum and how we've amplified the voice of the Africans, because they've been speaking about their problems a lot. Rapid urbanization should be a problem for the environment, but in the World Urban Forum, the Egyptian context was about giving an accessible finance from, you know, the important developed countries who have lots of money, we can say, so they can invest in a continent which has it all. That's the word. They have everything. They can build a really important sustainable you know, cities that can be an example as to how also to rebuild other developed continents. One of the most important issues that we've been speaking about is water. And the water, maybe we don't have a problem in water in Africa, and I can say that bluntly, but we don't know how to channel it in a proper infrastructure. And this is one of the top priorities that I've been speaking about, especially the African delegation, and I've been speaking with the Egyptian counterparts, also with the European Union counterparts, on how to share the efforts to create that. Accessibility to funds is not just because they're taking funds to build maybe roads or cities and stuff, but how to build it in the right way and how to get the knowledge. In many panel discussions, they've sought the Egyptian knowledge in different contexts.
The know-how.
Yes, and even from young people. We have really brilliant startups who have started very good ideas related to the water, and I was really shocked about how we got thousands of them. And when they had their platform, they got the right partnerships with the right people, with the right intergovernmental organizations.
The role of the government, the private sector, think tanks, which of these should be responsible for those startups, to encourage them, to give them the opportunity to show their talents and their innovative ideas? Because thinking out of the box and having this word innovation as all the time in front of you, especially when it comes to youth, I think it's very important.
Right. Can I say it's a collective responsibility, like everyone should be in the equation. So the government started with a very, very important initiative related to the green initiatives and projects with a technology component, which gives, oh my God, you know, you will find 2,000 to 3,000 applications from different regions in Egypt, east, west, north, south. Every city have applied, and that's a kind of thing that we want to implement. So the governments have started, also the think tanks have been giving knowledge and common knowledge internationally and nationally, and we have a very important think tanks in Egypt that are working properly with the startups, especially the youth, and also intergovernmental organizations and important political bodies like the European Union, for example, and other, you know, intergovernmental organizations. Can I mention names? We can speak about the funds coming from the Germans, from the Americans, and from British. So all of them have been...
Because it's a win-win situation.
Of course, mutual advantage. And this is very intelligent of the government on how to, you know, to seek those kind of partnerships to be implemented at the end of the day in the Egyptian context, then amplified to the African ones. And that's one of the most important things that got out, or takeouts from the conference or the forum, to give the Africans a voice, and at the same time it was an Egyptian tool to do so. So this is very important, even in a political way.
And you know what you're saying. The bell is ringing regarding something which happened today, as His Excellency Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati met with the General Secretariat of the European Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he said that those who are responsible for implementing the strategic partnership goals between Egypt and the EU.
Exactly.
I think this is something also which can be related to this forum and to Africa, because what we do have here, we can convey the message to all, and we can just implement what we have there. And since you were mentioning how to use water, for example, or to make the maximum benefit from our water resources.
Exactly.
I here going to repeat Julius Nyerere, Tanzania, this dam which was built by Egyptians in Tanzania, because Egypt is all the time working for the best interest and development of the African countries, because we are not against any kind of development, but we are against the unilateral decisions by by one African country.
Exactly.
Because our national security comes first. Sir.
It's brilliant. It's an honor, isn't it, that we are supporting this. You know, Egypt, to be specific, is the North Gate of Africa, and now it's the important player and how to connect or to bridge from the north to the south.
Yeah.
Bridging this is not about also politics or economics. Also, it's very important for the whole planet. If we not globalize and prioritize to have a proper urbanism, we will lose the battle with the climate change. And now we are hopefully winning, because now we are becoming more, sort of a homogeneous structure that wants to build a better future. That's happening from Africa. Honestly, every good thing related to saving the world and problems, it's starting from Africa.
And also, when it comes to finance, this is going to be the top priority.
Exactly.
And to speak about innovative financing mechanism, this means that this is going not to be a dream, but to turn into something which is really implemented on the ground.
Yes.
How do you see the new or innovative financial mechanism as one of the important topics which were discussed in the forum, and what are the results?
The results are magnificent, because we had something to be implemented, the signed agreements or MOUs, just to have to start, to make a step. Maybe the COPs a little bit like negotiations, but in the WUF it was implementation, and that's what I've seen in terms of not just panel discussions. Always every single panel discussion ends with a good results related to that. So we have a very important program launched in Egypt bilaterally with the European Union about water, not just in Egypt but with an African perspective and development. You know,
Engineer Yassin, I asked this question in specific because I wanted to mention or to shed more light on the private-public partnerships.
Yes.
Because having the private sector as a pivotal player in this issue is something which is not a luxury anymore, it's a must. How do you see this, and how we can guarantee that this is something already tangible taking place on the ground?
I've already met lots of private sector representatives who have been speaking also on behalf of the companies, but in terms of sending the officers who understand sustainability, so we can what we call it, couple together, to couple it together and to understand what kind of things that we have to reach.
The missing pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly, and they are a good player, and sometimes they were the polluters, but now they are the people who are looking for sustainability to get their businesses done, and at the same time not affecting the cities. Let me speak also about the infrastructure and construction companies.
Sure.
Have been very, very very constructive and attending most of the meetings to have a holistic approach on what the countries, and especially Egypt, looking forward along with Africa, and what we can implement on the ground. The infrastructure, also, there is a very important keyword, which is the early warning systems. Now it's happening,
sure.
so how we can adapt and mitigate and also take care of the climate change adverse impacts if it's already happening, and how we can also have a proper infrastructure that can withstand any disaster, so we can live a proper life and better future.
I don't know if this question is going to be considered a little bit out of context.
No.
Have we learned the lesson? Have we learned the lesson about climate change? Have we learned the lesson about what the whole world now is facing? Massive floods, unfortunately, famines in many places of the world. Rivers which are not now rivers anymore, drought and stuff like that, or unfortunately still we did not learn the lesson?
It's a very complicated question, but to be honest, we are trying to learn, that's the word, and we're trying to get the most important people on board. Not the climate activists only, but the governments are very important, decision makers around the world. And we need the global north to be paying attention, because they are most and biggest polluters, and they need to pay for what they've done, not pay like a revenge, but to pay financially for how the vulnerable continents like Africa to do so.
For the damages they cause.
Of course.
Simply.
Of course.
And as I promised, we're going just to continue with statistics from now and then. 407 main speakers, 37 main sessions, and most important that 201 male, 206 female speakers, and I'm really proud of that.
Brilliant, finally.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I do believe in gender
And
balance.
also, when I watched the sessions where Her Excellencies Manal Awad and Yasmin Fuad, our ministers, were talking together and were exerting the utmost efforts to continue with collaborating efforts together to make sure that what urbanization is doing on the ground is not going to affect our environment. This was really great. If you want to elaborate on that too.
Exactly. So, Her Excellency Dr. Yasmin Fuad you introduced the concept of circular economy, and this is a very, very good step to show that Egypt is, investing in this. But what kind? It was specifically intersecting with every aspect of life, not just localized in the Egyptian context, also the African one. And that kind of meetings have been, if you are following the page of the Ministry of Environment, they always connecting with the counterparts from the north, from the south, from Africa itself, to understand how we can globalize and to implement a proper circular economy concept in terms of waste management, in terms of how to do some sort of a circularity in the businesses, the products, EPR system, and the plastic issue that have been a very important issue. Yes, of course. It's a very big issue, and it's having a very important attention.
Nobody can ever imagine how many tons of plastics
in our oceans, in our seas.
Humans are polluting our oceans with annually.
Exactly. So it's a massive amount.
Yeah, and let's focus a little bit on that, because I really love this aspect.
Please.
Children and youth, recognizing the vital role of youth and for shaping the future cities. The WUF 12 featured a Children and Youth Assembly, bringing together young activists and leaders to discuss solutions for climate action, employment and community engagement. The Assembly highlighted the powerful role of youth in advocating for change and building bridges across generations. I love that.
Of course it's important. 80% of the climate activists and the people who are advocating for a proper and sustainable future are under 25. And like they are in the age sector between 17, maybe 14 also to 25. And they're learning a lot about the process, and they're trying also to amplify their voices to the governments. For example, we can speak about a very important initiative for the negotiators who are going to the COP 29 in Baku.
Azerbaijan.
All are young and
Baku, I think.
Baku, yes, yes, in Azerbaijan, and most of them are very young. The youth negotiators there will be part of the negotiations in terms of mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, and also speaking about the financial mechanisms related to the climate change and sustainable development.
And the role of NGOs, of the civil society, of the banking sector, because the banking sector is not only giving financial services, but non-financial services. Maybe in this regard can be more important.
And all are young people. So no offense, of course, to the adults or the seniors, but at the end of the day, that's the future generation, so they are shaping their generation. And also, I would like to say that the youth in Egypt have a very and brilliant extensive experiment. They always playing a role in every aspect that pushes or speed up the process for advocacy, if we can speak, in terms of entrepreneurship.
And turn my question into other words.
Yes.
Speaking with the people face to face, researchers who are really deeply included and involved into research, and here I'm not talking only about our universities, because our education institutions in general are doing a great job on that. But what about researchers? Because I really hate to find that the research are only ink on paper, not to implement the magnificent efforts which were done, which were made in these research, and just to, okay, I had a degree, I had a master, and that's it. This is not the case. This is not the issue.
Yes. Yeah, let me say, but it's a little bit unfair, because now we got Egyptian researchers have been implemented in terms of to help the startups who are developing technology related to recycling, water scarcity.
I'd like to know if you attended such a round table discussion between the new startups and new researchers or young scientists, if I may describe
Of course,
them.
one of the most best examples I've attended, and one of the panel discussions about a company recycling plastic and put it in as a part of a building materials, and now they are not using the natural resources or draining the planet for natural resources, because they spoken with a researcher or a scientist who've developed a technique on how to use plastic in building materials. So this is how startups have connected with scientists to do some sort of partnerships. Also, recycling fishing nets, and that came also from the same research that helped them on how to like break down those kinds of plastics and to be added to building materials and at the end of the day. So the point is here, like scientists now, even in Egypt, are contributing and helping and supporting the startups to develop their strategies and technologies. And we can say that's happening at 60 to 70%, maybe 2-3 years, maybe at 2030, we'll have now researchers are a very vital and important part of the research and development departments in the startups or the companies or big corporates.
How was the reaction of the African people or African attendees who came to this forum? Because I really think that they came with ambitions, hopes, dreams, and they met people who can turn those dreams into facts.
Can I say something, a quote?
Yeah.
So one of the African counterparts from the delegation said a very nice quote. He said, Egypt is always the opportunity. He said that bluntly. He means that it's an opportunity for everything, because they know that we've done many conferences, but Egypt is a very good platform for the African people. So why he said that? Because when I asked him, what do you see in this?
This interaction is the thing which I really want to convey to my viewers.
Exactly.
Because I want to know this conversation, and I want to know also if they consider Egypt as the opportunity, as Egypt is ready to deliver or to convey all its expertise, experience in different domains, or being also the gate of the West to them.
Can I say it's the North Gate, and also to give the knowledge about something happened on, or sort of an implementation of very important technologies or important ideas happened on the solid ground. So Egypt is both. It's and maybe sometimes in the last couple of years we thought that we have lost opportunities with Africa, but now we build
it's our very strategic depth, and nothing going to change that.
So
we
rebuild that in a very, very constructive way, that because they feel that we need those kinds of knowledge. And when, for example, when you see the African representation attending one of the panels and hearing one of the great startups, for example, who are doing a robot to clean up the water or to test the pollution and blah, blah, blah. They found out that we need this in our countries, we need that in Nigeria, we need that in Zimbabwe, we need... So how we can learn from you, that's the important lesson that we can come from the WUF, and I think it's happening properly because we've seen a very good engagement with the African delegation. Also in the Cairo Water Week that happened in last October, we had a very brilliant opportunity to meet with the African delegation in terms of what happened in Egypt. About 60 Egyptian startups, water scarcity startups, sustainable agriculture, water, food, energy nexus have helped to develop some knowledge with the African delegation, and they will replicate their ideas and their innovative ideas. So it's happening.
Yeah, and I think since 2019, when Egypt was claiming the presidency of the African Union, then it was also another milestone, another turning point, silencing the guns, developing the infrastructure, putting the health and education systems, and renovating the
amount of Egyptian companies working in different countries. So that's the point, and maybe the African youth also is a good amplifier for the voice. So when they've seen that kind of warm welcome, their voices are heard. They always feel that.
Since the word youth forum in Sharm el-Sheikh for I think a decade or something. No, I mentioned this, Engineer Yassin, because I really want to have this mix. I mean, economy and politics cannot be separated.
Of course not.
When there is a political will to do so, and when the president himself, the prime minister himself, in all occasions saying that we are going to continue supporting our African allies, we are going to continue to exchange expertise with our African allies, with all African states, to develop the infrastructure, to participate or to share in their mega development projects for the best interest of the African peoples. This is the political will, the economic partnerships, the strategic partnership relations. I think all this together can turn any dream into reality, if you agree with me on that.
Of course, I totally agree, and let me echo your words that you've said a very important thing. Strategic partnership is the key word on how to develop that really important, nice, beautiful continent, which is Africa.
Well, outcomes for lasting impact. After the close of the forum, issued the Cairo Call to Action, a document outlining commitments and pathways for sustainable urbanization. If you want to elaborate on this in specific.
So we can say that the outcomes of the forum is to continue the implementation related to the urbanism that can help and support the climate change adverse impacts and early warning systems. We can speak also about continuity of the Sharm el-Sheikh adaptation agenda and how to seek finances and to help that kind of urban infrastructure, and also, which is one of the most important things, continuity of Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement, when it came to we need more implementation on the ground. The partnerships, may I say that WUF was a very good opportunity for partnerships between, many countries at the same time, not just Global North, Global South. No, we have more concrete and specific partnerships in different themes, we can say, like water, how to build sustainable cities, and also help local communities.
Smart cities.
Smart cities, exactly, yes. So that's one of the most important outcomes that I see. And
moving to the UN Habitat, which reaffirmed to turning ideas into actionable solutions that will continue beyond WUF.
Yes.
Also, when it comes to UN, when it comes to international organizations, making sure that what took place on the ground also is not going to end here, but it's going to continue beyond. If you want to also elaborate on this.
Exactly. So the WUF was a very good milestone. Number 12 in Egypt is to continue, pending issues that have been there for 11 years. So in the 12th year, they've got a very pivotal point on how to get the proper finances to those kind of cities that we want to build. Also to speak to the, or to give an opportunity for countries who don't have or lack the voice to speak about their problems related to the urbanism, and also one of the best things that I've seen in this forum, which is an outcome, that the architects are now shifting the ideas or designs to be more sustainable, because they got an assurance of the UN Habitat that they will get funded in terms private sector, public sector, so they are not feeling that they are singing what we call it, like singing abandonedly or singing in another forest. It's the same forest, it's the same place.
We are not in isolated land,
exactly.
Islands. We are
so it's
all
not a Shutter
together.
Island effect,
Yeah.
it's connected.
Yeah, it's connected, and it's a little bit, not a little bit, it's flexible. I mean, we can amend many things on the road.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not something that rigid. No, we are going to adapt. We are going to
Thank you for this word, because when you see the document coming out of every single forum, but in Egypt we can say that it's a very flexible form, or we can say a sheet which includes the bullet points that we can work in the next WUF.
Let's quote what was written. Outcome documents were drafted with guidance from the newly established WUF advisory group,
Exactly.
composed of global stakeholders and local leaders, and these aim to reinforce WUF's lasting impact on cities worldwide.
Very important keywords that I've been saying. So we need to say that stakeholders now, they're having the full opportunity and full access to be part of the change, and the UN have said bluntly, and it's a very good and solid promise, that we can work together on implementing every single outcome that have been mentioned there, in terms of financials and in terms also of integrating civil society and the other stakeholders that have been mentioned in the sheet.
Amen to that. And one also of the sources of pride, at least for me, when I know that there was an atlas of new Egyptian cities,
Yes.
smart ones,
Yes.
which were introduced as role models for other smart cities, something which can be repeated or duplicated in other parts of the world, and particularly in Africa. If you want to also elaborate on that atlas, and how do you see this as one of the ways to exchange our expertise with others?
You know, there is a misconception about that. We are always about Africa, that they don't have the ability to form such a thing and such important project. The Egyptian Atlas will show that how we can, what we call it, 101 on how to build a sustainable and a city that can withstand and resilient to problems related to the climate change, and also to be very, 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 connected to the world, and to be meeting, the standards that we are looking for. And I think that the Africans has a very good opportunity for a very friendly country like Egypt, part of the continent, so they can build on this with the help of even the Egyptian perspective and an African perspective as well. So these, for example, speaking about Alexandria and how they've meant to be a city with withstanding and resilient to the problems related to the sea level rise, and now we have lots of projects.
Our delta is going to disappear?
No, this is a very, very harsh word. And when the former British Prime Minister said, he was just saying as not saying lack the knowledge, but it was a little bit like speaking out of the blue about something that he doesn't and is not really aware of. But what we say here is like, we have a problem, but he doesn't know that there are sort of mitigation and adaptation measures and projects that have been invested in with billions of dollars and euros.
But there are sometimes, I think, we need to be scared.
Of course.
We need to feel that we are in real danger, or we are not going to move only one step forward
like what
on the
happened
right path.
with the pandemic in 2020, it was an alarming thing to us, and we've been worried. So this is why we've changed the whole systems related to the even in vaccine distribution, or how to to have our scientists alarmed in any potential virus, which is a very powerful. Also, I call the climate change the other pandemic. So it's the other pandemic that we need.
And by the way, since you mentioned the vaccine issue, this is we learned from this in Africa with the mpox.
Yes.
The WHO learned the lesson, because we do not want to have another pandemic which can really claim the lives of millions of people in no time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Climate change is the same thing.
Amen.
I can say.
Amen to that.
Yes.
And it can cause I mean, illegal migration because of climate change, because
yes.
of poor.
This is one of the most, pressing issues with developed countries. This is why they're investing a lot. And we call, I've invented the word called climate Gs. So it's like refugees. And they will suffer the displacement because of climate. Now we have small islands in Oceania continent will disappear in no time because
And
of
to
the sea
whom
level
it may
rise.
concern, Trump is back when it comes to illegal migration.
Goodness,
But
we don't know. Okay.
anyway, I really enjoyed our discussion.
Thank you very much.
And unfortunately, we're running out of time. But, sir, I'm going to leave you with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our program.
Of course, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, sir. We were very much delighted and honored to have with us engineer Ahmed Yassin in this very special episode of Money Means Business. And now I'm going to leave you with the most important economic events which took place in the past 7 days. Stay tuned on Nile TV International always for more. Many thanks for watching. With all my love, this was Nirmeen Abdurrahman.
Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli stressed after his meeting with the director of the International Monetary Fund that the discussions focused on the importance of not taking decisions that increase financial burdens on citizens during the current period, adding that the government received congratulations from the director of the fund, where she praised the flexibility of the exchange rate and the stability of the market in Egypt, and the absence of any late requests in banks, which reflects the stability of the financial situation. An Egyptian company is participating in the implementation of the monorail electric train project in Saudi Arabia with a group of Saudi and Chinese companies, as the electric train path extends 3.6 kilometers and operates with automated operation technology without a driver. The train is also distinguished by its connection to the Riyadh Metro, which enhances the transportation experience and allows easy access to all parts of the city. Egyptian agricultural exports continue to penetrate many global markets as the number of countries receiving them reached more than 160 countries around the world, as the Ministry of Agriculture succeeded in opening new markets such as the Japanese market for Egyptian citrus fruits, the Chinese market for Egyptian pomegranates, and finally the Costa Rican market for fresh onions. The ministry explained that more than 400 agricultural products were exported to more than 160 countries worldwide. According to the latest report issued by the Agricultural Quarantine Sector of the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, total agricultural exports during the period from January 2024 to October of this year amounted to more than 6.9 million tons of agricultural products worth about $4 billion and $37 million, an increase of $980 million and more than 574,000 tons over the same period last year. The Armed Forces Future Egypt Authority is preparing to implement a huge agricultural project in the city of Al Arish. The new project will be built on an area of 40,000 acres and aims to reclaim the desert lands surrounding Al Arish International Airport, relying on groundwater within the framework of the Sinai Development Plan. Sales of the Egyptian drug market recorded about £277 billion during the period from October 2023 to last September. Dr. Ali Al-Ghamrawi, head of the Egyptian Drug Authority, said that the total sales of the Egyptian drug market from October 2023 to September 2024 amounted to 3.6 billion packages, explaining that the authority worked during the past period to ensure the availability of drugs in the market and restore the strategic stock of pharmaceutical raw materials and important preparations, and follow up on work on production lines with continuous review of preparations pharmaceutical. Locally assembled truck sales increased during the first 9 months of the current year 2024, reaching 7.6 thousand trucks compared to 7.1 thousand trucks during the same period last year 2023, an increase of 6.5%, and according to the report issued by the Automotive Market Information Council, AMIC, sales of imported trucks witnessed a noticeable decrease during the same period, recording the sale of 1.3 thousand trucks compared to 2.2 thousand during the comparison period, a decrease of 40.8%. Engineer Khalid Abbas, Chairman and Managing Director of the Administrative Capital for Urban Development Company, said that the price per meter in the Administrative Capital projects has doubled to between 4 and 5 times, noting that part of this increase is due to economic changes, while the other part is due to the growth and continuous operation of the city. Abbas added that the profits of the new Administrative Capital Company for the current year are growing by 20 to 25%, up from £27 billion in the company's profits before taxes in 2023.